before we fully close the door on the seed oil piece, let's make sure we're really clear with people what oil specifically we're talking about there.
Well, if it's in a bottle, it's a good start.
Okay, well,
If
this leads to my next question. Things like olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, ones that are, depending on what camp you're in, looked at as healthy oils.
Hey, it's a great thing, marketing, isn't it? So if it's an oil, then it is liquid at room temperature, and it's going to have higher components of polyunsaturated and monounsaturated oil in it, and smaller components of saturated fat. Even butter has got a bit of monounsaturated and polyunsaturated in it, but it's more solid at room temperature. So if it's liquid at room temperature, and I think the classic grey area here is olive oil. Okay, I think the sunflower oils, the canola oils, anything that's got vegetable oil written on it, just don't even touch it. But tell me how you get oil out of a vegetable. I mean, that's just marketing. It's just got. It's best. There is a good use for vegetable oil, by the way. Okay, if you mix vegetable oil with detergent, a liquid detergent, then you can spray it on your plants to keep insects out. And that's called white oil. That's actually made from seed oils. And what it does is you spray it on the plants to kill the insects, right? To kill the insects. So polyunsaturated oil kills insects. So why on earth do you want to put it in your body? So that is a role for canola oils and stuff like that. And I have a bottle of vegetable oil, but it was only used to spray the plants in a green fashion. But now we don't virtually grow any plants to eat, and mostly carnivore. We just don't have the white oil. So olive oil in itself is interesting. And I'm not the first person to say this, but olive oil, I think, is not quite as good for us as it's been touted to be. If you break it down, it has higher amounts of, we're told monounsaturated oils are good for us. Well, yes, they're better for us than the polyunsaturated, but they still have double bonds in them. And those double bonds can become oxidized. And you've got to work out where that marketing came from, because it's part of our tradition. Olive oil, Mediterranean diet. Olive oil, Mediterranean, it's the healthiest diet. Well, two things about the Mediterranean diet. Here's a little trivial pursuit question for you. How many countries border the Mediterranean?
Couldn't tell you, I'll guess 6.
22.
Way off.
If we take what's the traditional diet of Morocco versus Egypt versus France versus Italy versus Greece versus Libya, okay, look, bang, okay, they're all completely different diets, but it's the Mediterranean diet. So when you realise that the Mediterranean diet is never been defined, number one. Number two, it is loosely based around a Greek coastal diet. And if you take all of the benefits of a Mediterranean diet, they are eating pretty well fresh, local, seasonal, whole produce based on their culture and environment, which is, one of my mainstay comments. That's what we should eat, with avoiding added sugar and processed food. Now, that's a Mediterranean diet, because it doesn't matter where you are, but it's not a diet which is plant-based. It is about eating natural foods and high amounts of natural fats from animal-based products, fish, and their pigs, their goats, their sheep, occasionally cattle. So there are benefits of the Mediterranean diet, because that is fresh, local, seasonal, whole food. It's not vegan, vegetarian, nuts, fruits, grain. It is not. So in the 1960s and 70s, the olive oil industry, based primarily around Greece and Italy, decided to have conferences where they invited speakers from around the world and journalists to come to the conferences about olive oil and the benefits of a Mediterranean diet. And if you were a journalist and you wrote favourably about it, you were invited back to the Greek islands the following year for a freebie trip. And the following year, if you continue to write favourably in the media about the benefits of olive oil and the Mediterranean diet, you got invited back again. Have you been to the Greek islands?
I haven't. You?
They are lovely, okay? They're very special, you know. And would I write favourably and sell my soul to go back to the Greek islands next year? Not me, but enough people did in the 1970s to create the myth of the benefits of the Mediterranean diet and olive oil. And hence it is now entrenched in our system. If you look up the black market related to olive oil and the difference between virgin and extra virgin olive oils and whatever, and the tampering, olive oil in one place is not the same as olive oil in another place. The amount of seed oils, the amount of vegetable oils that have been creeping into the olive oil industry just to dilute it down, to actually, because olive oil requires a lot more industry, a lot more effort to take olives, crush them, mill them, ferment them. I know there's not much fermenting, but nonetheless to process them. But if you can actually put a bit of vegetable oils in there which are industrially determined, you can actually water down, or not water, oil them down. So the bastardization of the olive oil industry is a whole topic in itself, and you can people get on the internet and go searching down that rabbit hole. So olive oil is touted to be really beneficial for us. But it all comes down to nutrition science. It's really, really vague.
I asked you initially there about olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil. You made some good points talking about the oils being corrupt and diluted with other oils and the quality of the science being not so great. But point blank, are you using not avocado, but are you using olive oil? And then do you think that is something that's acceptable for somebody trying to live a healthy lifestyle?
I'll just come back one step. Coconut oil is solid. It comes in a jar. You've got to heat it up to get it out of the jar. So, I mean, that coconut oil, and that's 99% saturated fat and about 1% mono and poly. So it's funny how it's called coconut oil when it's not. It's coconut butter. It's coconut fat. It's solid. So if you've got coconut oil that you can pour out of a bottle where you are, it ain't coconut oil, okay?
Depends on the time of the year. You can almost use it like a thermometer here.
Yeah, okay. If it's really hot, then you can. Okay, I'll get that. But most times, where I am, it comes in a jar. If I'm a purist, so we don't have olive oil in the house. Actually, we do have some, but if you're actually cooking animal-based foods there's enough fat in them to actually, you don't need to put extra fat in. Why have we got olive oil in the house? I don't know. I know there's a bottle there. I think it was given to us. Yeah, it was given to us. I don't think we've purchased it. But I'm a bit of a purist. So as a purist, you sort of, I'm at one end of the spectrum. Okay, I'm doing it hardcore. I'm doing it for my own personal reasons, my health journey, my lifestyle, whatever. At the other end of the spectrum is where people are eating crap food all of the time, getting fatter and sicker and unhealthy, and society's mostly over that side. Now, if 90% of the population do 90% of what I'm talking about, we're going to see an enormous turnaround in health. And we might see people fall off the bandwagon from time to time. So if you've got a choice between having olive oil and vegetable oil or canola oil, then have the olive oil. It is going to be better for you. But just remember, it's still got it's got oxidizable double bonds in it, which can potentially cause some inflammation. It's about the sugar thing. I think we talked about this in the last talk, where, yes, in season, I will have a few berries in a granola mix at night because I know that the few berries are going to contain a little bit of fructose, and it's going to make me hungry. So I'm eating knowing what it's going to do. I've made an informed decision to be an idiot. I'm having some fruit because I like the sweetness. But bearing in mind, sweetness is actually something which is part of our survival mechanism as animals to get fat for winter hibernation. So, okay, I fall for that addiction. Yeah, I probably have less than 20 berries per year. Okay, so I can't say that it's an extreme. People might say that's extreme, but I do have them. But I understand that if I eat them, and if I eat them at breakfast, then I'm going to be hungrier in 2 and 3 and 4 hours' time. So I have them at night. So the same thing goes with olive oil. I'd rather you have olive oil than a vegetable oil. But I think for everyone, there's a journey. There's a journey that they want to go on, and they travel down this path, and they may end up. And I've talked about this in some of my presentations. The journey, you go from eating the crap diet, the standard diet, then you actually move to the food pyramid, still find out that it makes you sick, and then you go to moving to low carb, healthy fat, and then you move to keto, and then you move to carnivore, all for different reasons. And there is a group who travel the path of vegan because it seems to be more pure food, less processed. And they do well for a couple of years until they realise they're actually missing out on the essential vitamins, minerals, proteins and fats, and they move towards LCHF. And there's a lot of high-profile speakers in the world who used to be vegan, but they've gone to actually having to realising the critical role of animal-based foods. So everyone's at a different point in their journey. Some people are still eating badly and are well. There are some people who are eating badly who are getting unwell and then start to transition down that pathway. And some people need to go all the way to take all the plant-based materials out of their diet so they get rid of the oxalates and the phytates and the other toxins that are within plants to get to their health point. But if you start moving down this pathway, then you start learning more and more. You learn more about what's good and bad outside of mainstream media, and you learn what's good and bad for you. And we've got a technology-driven society. You can get hold of, directly or indirectly, what's called CGMs, continuous glucose monitors, a little, normally got one on my desk here somewhere. And you can put that underneath, stick it on your skin, and it will measure your glucose levels. That is perfect individualized healthcare. You can see exactly what food does to you. So when I put one on, mine stays perfectly flat. My blood glucose does not go up or down. But I have, in the midst of a lecture, worn that, and I ate 2 bananas at the beginning of the lecture, and I watched everyone could watch my blood glucose go up and up and up. Within about 40 minutes, I was in the diabetic range. I'd lost my voice. I could barely talk. I came off the stage and my daughter said, "Are you okay, Dad?" I said, "No, I'm feeling really sick as a dog." And then it came back down again. But we've also done that on live radio. Here's an example with radio announcer. Big guy, put a glucose monitor on him, and he ate the 9-grain super healthy bread, and his blood glucose went up through the roof. And he was actually on air saying, "I'm feeling sick." We didn't name the brand of it. It was discussed, and it was part of an ongoing educational thing. Within 2 hours, the bread companies were on the phone to the radio station saying, "We're going to withdraw all our advertising unless you take that program down." Because the public don't want to know that your blood glucose spikes when you have a couple of slices of bread. So CGMs are very powerful. So if you can get hold of one and you're on this journey and you want to see what food does to you, don't believe me, don't believe you, don't believe anything that you hear. Stick a glucose monitor on and monitor it for yourself and see what happens to your blood glucose. And if you can eat cake and bread and rice and pasta and pizza and your blood glucose stays perfectly normal, you might be the freak that gets away with it. But if you're like most people I know who put a CGM on, they find it an incredible learning experience to think what they thought was eating healthy was in fact spiking their blood glucose all over the place. And when you spike your blood glucose, you damage your glycocalyx, your Maillard reaction kicks in. You are toasting your brain, your kidneys, your eyes. Oh, it's just an incredible wake-up call, but going on this health journey. And that's just another tool along the way. There's another long-winded Fettke answer. Sorry.
No, I love it. Did they end up taking the radio show down?
No, they took down that live clip that was on Facebook, though. And he didn't talk about it. I'm allowed to talk about him a bit because I actually, in our last state elections here, I put glucose monitors on both sides of politics. And between both sides of politics, they lost over 50 kilograms, they and their teams. And I then said, okay, if it's good enough for you, it's now what about the people? So I did go down to Parliament House and have lunch there, talking to the health minister and both sides of politics in a bipartisan sort of approach to, okay, what can we do for the people? But being good politicians, they said, okay, yes, Dr. Fettke, and nothing much has happened. But we keep trying. So a glucose monitor is a very powerful tool for proving to people what food does to them. But you can listen to your body. You can say, oh, if I eat too much sugar and carbs and I'll have too much Christmas lunch and too much Christmas pudding, I'm going to feel tired and lethargic. Or you have your bacon and eggs for breakfast and then you go actually out and exercise all day and you feel good. Just start listening to our bodies. That's what it's about.
If you enjoyed that clip, you're going to want to head over here and catch a full episode. I'll see you over there.
Now, my take on carbohydrates, particularly glucose and fructose, if they're so good for us, why does the body do absolutely everything in its capacity to get it out of the bloodstream?